What if the most breathtaking structures ever built no longer exist? What if entire wonders of the ancient world were erased from history, destroyed by earthquakes, fire, and war? In this video, I'm going to reconstruct 10 of the greatest lost wonders that actually existed, using AI to bring them back to life for the first time in centuries. Stay with me, because number 3 is going to completely change the way you see the ancient world. We think we know ancient history. We've seen the paintings, read the textbooks, visited the museums, but here's the truth. We are only seeing the ruins, the broken bones of a world that was once staggeringly, impossibly beautiful. The ancient world built structures so advanced, so enormous, so breathtaking, that even today, with all of our technology, we couldn't easily replicate them. And almost all of them are gone. Not slowly forgotten, gone, burned, toppled, looted, and swallowed by the earth. What you're about to see are AI reconstructions based on historical records, archaeological evidence, and ancient written accounts. These are not fantasy. These are what actually existed. Let's bring them back. Standing on the island of Pharos off the coast of Alexandria, Egypt, this was one of the tallest man-made structures on Earth for over 1,000 years. At roughly 100 meters tall, that's taller than the Statue of Liberty, it projected a beam of light visible 50 kilometers out to sea. Ancient sailors used it as their GPS, their lifeline across the Mediterranean. It stood for over 1,500 years before a series of earthquakes finally brought it down in the 14th century. Its stones were later used to build a military fort, the Alexander Citadel, that still stands today. Look at this reconstruction. 3 tiers, white marble, a fire burning at the summit reflected through polished bronze mirrors into the darkness of the sea. It wasn't just a lighthouse, it was a statement. Egypt was saying to the entire ancient world, we are here and we are extraordinary. For centuries, people believed this giant bronze statue straddled the entrance to the harbor of Rhodes, ships sailing between its legs. That image is almost certainly a myth, but the reality is still jaw-dropping. Standing approximately 70 meters tall, the Colossus was a statue of the sun god Helios, built to celebrate Rhodes' victory over a massive Macedonian siege. It took 12 years to build and stood for only 54 years before an earthquake snapped it at the knees. Here's what makes this wonder haunting. It lay broken on the ground for nearly 900 years. Ancient tourists traveled from across the Mediterranean just to see the ruins. One ancient writer said even lying on the ground, the statue was so large that most people could barely wrap their arms around its fallen thumb. The bronze was eventually sold for scrap, loaded onto 900 camels, melted down, and gone forever. Here is where history gets genuinely mysterious, and why I told you to stay with me. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon may be the only ancient wonder whose existence historians still debate. No Babylonian text has ever been found describing them. No archaeological evidence has been confirmed. And yet, Greek and Roman writers describe them in extraordinary detail. Terraced gardens rising like a green mountain above the flat Mesopotamian desert. Exotic trees, waterfalls, flowers from across the known world, all irrigated by an elaborate system of pumps drawing water from the Euphrates River. Some historians now believe the gardens weren't in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire, built by King Sennacherib. What we do know is this. Something existed that was so staggering, so unlike anything the ancient world had seen, that writers across multiple civilizations felt compelled to record it for eternity. Look at this AI reconstruction and ask yourself, could this have been real? Destroyed and rebuilt 3 times, this temple was considered the greatest of all ancient temples, even more impressive than the Parthenon. It measured 115 meters long and 55 meters wide. over 127 marble columns, each 18 meters tall. The roof was lined with sculptures crafted by the greatest artists of the ancient world. It was burned down by a man named Herostratus in 356 BC, simply because he wanted to be famous forever. Ancient authorities banned anyone from ever speaking his name. That ban clearly didn't work. The temple was rebuilt even grander, then destroyed by the Goths in 268 AD, then stripped for its marble during the rise of Christianity. Today, only one column remains standing in a muddy field in western Turkey. This is where we get the word mausoleum from King Massalis of Caria, who began building his own tomb while still alive. Standing 45 meters tall, it was decorated with elaborate friezes and sculptures on all four sides, each side designed by a different famous Greek sculptor. It was considered so beautiful that it was ranked among the seven wonders not for its size, but for its artistic achievement. It survived for nearly 1,800 years before being damaged by earthquakes and finally dismantled by Crusader knights who used its marble stones to reinforce their castle walls. Those walls still stand. You can visit them today. You are literally walking through the bones of one of the ancient world's greatest treasures. Imagine walking into a temple and seeing a seated figure so enormous, 12 meters tall, that if Zeus stood up, he would burst through the roof. That was the intended effect, and it worked. Sculpted by Phidias, the same man who carved the Athena statue inside the Parthenon, this statue was made of gold and ivory stretched over a wooden frame. Zeus held a golden Nike, goddess of victory, in one hand and an ivory and gold scepter in the other. Roman Emperor Caligula reportedly tried to have it shipped to Rome. The workers sent to dismantle it claimed the statue burst into laughter and they fled in terror. It was eventually moved to Constantinople, where it was destroyed by fire in the 5th century AD. Not a physical wonder in the traditional sense, but perhaps the greatest loss in all of human history. At its peak, the Library of Alexandria held an estimated 400,000 to 700,000 scrolls, virtually all of the accumulated knowledge of the ancient world: mathematics, medicine, astronomy, philosophy, literature, engineering. It wasn't destroyed in one dramatic fire, that's a myth. It declined gradually over centuries through neglect, funding cuts, and repeated political upheaval. What we lost will never be known, but scholars believe entire fields of ancient knowledge, medicines, engineering techniques, astronomical calculations, simply vanished with it. We are still living in that shadow. Most people know Petra from its famous facade, the treasury, carved directly into rose-red rock, but fewer people know about the great temple complex that once stood in its heart. Covering over 7,000 square meters with a theatrical auditorium, colonnaded walkways, and elaborate hydraulic systems, this was a full ceremonial city carved from stone. It wasn't lost to war or fire. It was lost to time, buried under centuries of sand and earthquake rubble, hidden until modern archaeology began uncovering it just decades ago. Parts of it are still being excavated today.